Impeachment is in full swing. But hey, who's paying attention? I mean, let's face it, Trump's already been canceled. The cancellation avalanche, though, is in full swing. Every hour, somebody new is being canceled. Are you next? It's Rob Nelson Live. Welcome to the Friday night Rob Nelson Live show. I'm here in Florida with a rainstorm going on behind me. But hey, it's torrential downpour, and maybe it makes sense because we got downpours coming. Just want to thank everybody who's watching on all our platforms we stream on, from Facebook to Reddit to Instagram, Twitter, all of you out there. Thank you. Love it. Keep it engaged. YouTube, of course. Stay with me. Stay in it. Let's heat this thing up. Okay. Quick. Impeachment. Yes, impeachment's going on. No, I'm not going to spend tonight talking about it. I promise. I'll do that next week once the verdict's in. I mean, we already know the verdict is in. The verdict is he's going to be acquitted, for better or worse. Just want to say I'll take it all on next week, and I'm ready to go there. Listen to it. Just going to shout out, Jamie Raskin, the lead impeachment manager. He's good. He's really good. You can tell he was a law professor. I actually went to law school, too, at Stanford, studied with some of the best. I'm going to take a lot of it on, but I just want to say there's some good points on both sides, and I'm gonna tackle them all next week, including Brandenburg, including what this means for future presidential conduct and what it means for, impeachment, because I got a feeling after this, we're just going to start impeaching everybody left, right, and center, and that's not a good thing. I don't want Joe Biden impeached if Republicans win. That's next week. This week, it's all about everybody else who's being canceled because Trump already got canceled. We literally are in a mass, and I've been saying this. This is for me. It's all about free speech. I am a free speech libertarian. I want pretty much all speech to be allowed. But we are hitting a point, and I said, it started with the right. And I was saying we're canceling people on the right, and people would say, hey, come on, it's not true. They're just saying crazy things. And I said, it's going to start spiraling. It's going to start avalanching. It's going to start like a big giant snowball rolling down a mountain, and it's going to start getting everybody. It's not going to matter what side of the politics you're on. It's not even going to just be about politics. We're literally going to just start canceling people for anything they do wrong. Now, you think I'm crazy? Not really. In the last day, 2 days, 3 days, more people. I can't even keep up with how many people are being canceled. They're literally being canceled like one after the other. So let's go through some of the most recent highlights of let's call it cancel week. We'll call it cancel week. Okay, the first one is Gina Carano. Y'all know who Gina Carano is? Gina Carano was the MMA, the face of women's MMA for a while. It's part of Strikeforce and the whole thing. Had an incredible record, and then she became an actress, and she landed her biggest role on The Mandalorian. And if you watch Disney Plus, The Mandalorian, it's a Star Wars spinoff, and Gina Carano is the sort of the sidekick to Pedro Pascal's The Mandalorian. She's this rebel fighter and goes all MMA on everyone. She's a great character. Jon Favreau, who created the show, actually wrote the character for Gina Carano. He created the character for her. And she's an integral part of the show until this week when she made the mistake of posting to Instagram and saying things people don't want said. Crafty, we got some we're on video. We have some graphics for this stuff. There it is. The Mandalorians dropped Gina Carano after her, quote, abhorrent social media posts. Okay, so she made abhorrent posts. So if you're making abhorrent posts, you get canceled. Now, again, Gina Carano's a conservative. She's on the right. She's said things about anti-masking. She said things about the election being stolen, all that. I get it. But this is what she got canceled for. She put up a post in which she compared what's happening to people on the right to what happened to the Jews in Germany. And I'm going to read the post before everybody reacts. I want to read the post. Okay. So I can't read the post. It's too small. Let me put my glasses on so I can read it. Here we go. She says, basically, because because I can't read it. Crafty, can you read it?
Yeah, because history is edited. Most people today don't realize that to get to the point where Nazi soldiers could easily round up thousands of Jews, the government first made their own neighbors hate them simply for being Jews. How is that any different from hating someone for their political views?
Okay. So here's where I want to go with that now. Thanks, Crafty. So again, what did she do? She compared Trump supporters to people in Germany who then became Holocaust survivors. I want to be very clear because she got slammed for being anti-Semitic. Now, one thing I want to be, so read it, take it in context. She's not saying the Jews weren't there was no Holocaust. She's not saying the Jews weren't, basically Hitler didn't kill millions of Jews and that it was horrible. She's saying it did happen and it was horrible. It was horrible. But her point was that it didn't start. It didn't start with Hitler just rounding people up and putting in concentration camps. It started with Hitler getting neighbors to dislike their neighbors who were Jews. It started with community hate on the Jews, and then led to that. And her point was you couldn't just instantly do it. You had to get people to hate enough. Now, before you go, that's anti-Semitic, because we can take up the issue of whether it's fair to compare Trump supporters to the people who became Holocaust survivors. But to be clear, she didn't actually say say Trump supporters are Holocaust survivors. She said this is how it started in Germany. It didn't start with everyone being put in concentration camps. It started with everybody being told to hate a certain kind of person. Now, whether you think it's a fair comparison or not, that's what she was actually saying. And, many, many, many great, thinkers, of the Jewish faith and people who came out after, even Holocaust survivors, like, who like Elie Wiesel, talked about the idea that they let it happen. People let it happen. Hitler didn't just happen. People allowed it to happen by looking the other way and by going after people who were Jews and then Catholics, going after them with hateful thoughts, discriminating against them, all that stuff. Is Gina Carano right to make that comparison? I don't know. Should she be canceled for it? Is it anti-Semitic to make is it anti-Semitic? Do you think it's anti-Semitic to say the Jews got massacred by Hitler, but it didn't start with Hitler putting them in concentration camps. It started, which is true, with Hitler encouraging communities to turn on their Jewish neighbors. And she's saying that's what we're doing here. It's technically true. Is it fair to compare it to the Holocaust? Maybe not. Is that cancelable? Well, she did some other things too. Same time, she put up some tweets that she meant to be funny or some Instagram posts. She put up a picture of these masks. Monkey arms. She was comparing Trump supporters to Nazis. No, she was not comparing Trump supporters to Nazis. She was comparing Trump supporters to the Jews who the Nazis persecuted. She was saying the Trump supporters are like the Jews. That the Jews didn't get put in concentration camps right away. First, the regime got their neighbors who were not Jews to hate on Jews. And that she's saying that's what it's like to be a Trump supporter. We're getting everyone to hate on conservatives. Now, are they next going to be put in concentration camps? No, of course not. So is it an extreme analogy? I think so. But she wasn't making them the Nazis. And by the way, if that is cancelable, then by the same logic, you should be canceled. By the same logic, if you compare someone like Trump or someone on the right to Hitler, you're making the same extreme comparison. Trump's not Hitler. Trump could be horrible. Trump could be terrible. You could think he's a horrible human being, a rotten president, one that should be impeached. It wasn't Hitler. He didn't like round up millions of people and put them in concentration camps. So if that's a false equivalency, if Gina Carano's is a false equivalency, which I think it is, so is the other one. So you're going to cancel them both? And she put up these mask things. She put up these other things. We got some graphics of this, the masks. Meanwhile, in California, okay, I get it. Anti-masking. Do I think it's funny? Whatever. Do I think you should be canceled for it? No. Or this one actually is funny. This one's really funny. Well, impeachment day again. It's Groundhog Day again. Political humor, allowed to have it, right? She's being called anti-Semitic for the post comparing Trump supporters. Thanks, Crafty, for comparing Trump supporters to Jews in Nazi Germany before they were put in concentration camps. I want to be really clear because Monkey Arm said comparing to Nazis. She wasn't. She was comparing. If anything, she was saying the left was the Nazis. But I don't think she was even saying that. She was just saying Jewish people in Germany weren't locked up right away and put in concentration camps. First, there was a hate campaign against them. and it was their neighbors turning on them. And she's saying that's what we're doing to conservatives. Should you be canceled for that? I don't think so. She was. Disney yanked her from the show. She's no longer a part of The Mandalorian. Here's where it gets funny, though, because up until today, there was a something on Pedro Pascal, who plays the Mandalorian, on his Instagram, or is it Twitter? I don't know. We have a clip of it because it came down today. Hello, 343 Politics. Here it is. Yeah, Crafty, can you take down the thing underneath it so we can see it? There we go. Germany, 1944. That is a concentration camp. America, 2018. That's people who are illegal immigrants being detained. Oddly enough, the picture is actually from the Obama administration. They kept using pictures from the Obama administration, which is fine. Doesn't matter. They did it in the Trump administration, too. They did it in both administrations. Point is, Pedro Pascal, that's put it back up for a second, just so we can be clear. That's his post right there. That's his account, right? Germany, 1944, concentration camps. Keep it up for a sec, Crafty. Concentration camps. Put it back up, Crafty. Concentration camps underneath today, 2 years ago, immigrants in holding cells. So thanks, Crafty. So Pedro Pascal is making the same comparison on the other side. Gino Carano said, hey, Jews in Germany before the concentration camps were hated on by their neighbors first. That's what you're doing to conservatives in America. Pedro Pascal put up a thing saying Jews in concentration camps today, illegal immigrants being detained. Same thing. No, it's not. It's not the same thing. It's also a false equivalency. You're allowed to make the comparison, but no. What illegal immigrants being held in detention centers, even to the degree that some of it wasn't the most humane, was nowhere near, not even remotely close. It's if one is anti-Semitic if it is to delegitimize the Holocaust, to make that comparison that Gina Carano made, it is to delegitimize the Holocaust to suggest that people put in holding camps, and that's a picture from the Obama administration, detained, was the same as Hitler putting Jews in concentration camps and killing them, millions of them. Complete false equivalency. If one is denigrating and is anti-Semitic, so is the other. So by that logic, Pedro Pascal, yeah, it's a double standard at its finest. It absolutely is. So Pedro Pascal needs to now be canceled. I don't think either one of them should be, but if you're going to cancel one, cancel the other. Come on. I'm serious. This isn't left or right. Cancel the other one. No one can make comparisons to Hitler, to Nazis, to Jews. It's anti-Semitic if you do, unless it's an equivalency. So if it's genocide, if it's the Chinese genocide of the Uyghurs, that you can make that comparison. If it's an equal thing. No, people make false comparisons all the time. You're allowed to do it, but you get canceled for one, then you got to get canceled for the other. Bye-bye, Pedro. The only good thing is that if they cancel Pedro Pascal, which they won't, they can replace him because he's a Mandalorian. He never takes his helmet off. If you watch the show, he can't. His code, the Mandalorian code, he can't show his face. I mean, he does at the end of this season, but, he keeps the helmet on forever. So you can just put a different guy in the suit and, get a similar voice. Okay. It gets better. It gets more fun. It gets crazier. Chris Harrison and The Bachelor. We talked about this last week. Chris Harrison, we talked about Chris Harrison, we talked about The Bachelor. Remember the Bachelorette, the woman who it seems like she's going to be the Bachelor. She's the one, she's going to be the one the Bachelor picked. That's probably why everyone was trying to defend her, right? Because he picked her and we don't know yet, but that's who it's probably going to be. Rachel did this thing where her friend group, supposedly, she's part of it, whether she did or not, they did, dissed on girls who dated black kids in high school, white girls. And now she's dating a black guy. And so fury from the Bachelor Nation. And Chris Harrison, who, hosts it and does a little show, talks about it and basically says this. Crafty, can you put up the quote? It's a long one. I think I can read this one. I haven't talked to Rachel about it, Harrison told Lindsay. He's in a conversation with one of the other women on the show. We all need to have a little grace, a little understanding, a little compassion, because I've seen some stuff online. This judge, jury, and executioner thing where people are just tearing the girl's life apart and diving into like her parents' voting record. It's unbelievably alarming to watch this. I haven't heard Rachel speak on this yet. Till I actually hear this woman have a chance to speak. Who am I to say any of this? I saw a picture of it at a sorority party 5 years ago, and that's it. Okay, that's Chris Harrison defending Rachel, who's going to be the Bachelor's black this year. So that's the whole reason it's a big controversy. So she's the one he's going to pick. I put my money on it, right? And basically Chris Harrison's defending her. And what he says is, look, I don't know. Let her talk. I don't know how we show some civility. This judge, jury, executioner thing is getting out of control. going after her parents, who her parents voted for because they were conservatives, Republicans, and that's what everybody did. They started posting all this stuff. I saw a picture of a sorority party, he says. Okay, that seems like a reasonable response. He's not a conservative. Seems like a reasonable response going, you know what? Give the girl a chance to be heard at least before we cancel her and try to shut her out. I mean, I don't know. Let her talk. Let her have her side, right? Isn't that reasonable? Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you, Faces. It's not about what she said. It's about how it's perceived by fans. It's all about making money from the fans. Absolutely. And, partly why Chris Harrison's probably defending her, to his credit, maybe he meant it, but also he knows who's going to win. It's like, she's going to be the winner. We got to do something about this. That or we got to go in and we got to change the ending. Quick, very funny sidebar. I hosted a show on ABC called The Scholar, a bunch of kids trying to win a scholarship to college. And they were all deserving kids who, deserved it and didn't have the money, except one. One kid got in the show because her dad was a big exec and had plenty of money, lived in like Calabasas and outside of LA. But they let her on the show thinking, oh, whatever, we're doing a favor to the dad and she'll never win. She ended up, she played the system so well and she won. And I remember when we were sitting with the judges after they picked, because they didn't know her background and all this. And the producers were like, my God, can we change the ending? Obviously they didn't. They would have been sued. But I was like, no, you screwed yourself. And she ended up winning. There's just a little sidebar. Monkey arms. Here's a comparison. Trump equals Bin Laden. His supporters equal 911 hijackers. Again, you're allowed to say that, Monkey arms. I don't agree. I think it's a false equivalency. I don't think Bin Laden supporters are the same. Trump supporters are 911 hijackers. I don't think that's the same. But you're allowed to make that comparison, Monkey arms. I give you 100% room to make it. My point is, we're canceling Gina Carano for making a comparison, and we're calling it anti-Semitic. And most people get confused, think she's saying she thinks she was actually putting the Jews down. She wasn't. The reason people said it's anti-Semitic is because they're saying you can't compare something to Holocaust. She was saying the Holocaust survivors, the Jews in Germany, were, she's saying that's horrible what happened to them, but that's what we're going to do to Trump supporters. So that's why it's anti-Semitic, making it seem like it's an equivalent thing. Again, not anti to the Jews, but to minimize the Holocaust. Okay, back to The Bachelor, though. Chris Harrison. Yeah, I'm talking Bachelor. So Chris Harrison says this, and then he in this conversation, he says a couple other things. We got little clips, not clips, we got a little thing of what he says next. He says I'll just read a little part of it. Crafty, pop that up. The other thing Chris Harrison says. He says, the woke police is out there, and this poor girl, Rachel, who's just been thrown to the lions. I don't know how you are equipped when you've never done this before to be woke enough, to be eloquent enough, to be ready to handle this. And my guess is this woman needs a little time. So what's Chris Harrison saying? He's saying, look, the woke police are after you. The woke mob's trying to get you, right? And she's never done this before. How could she be eloquent enough? How could she be woke enough? Give her some time. Okay, for this, Chris Harrison got mega backlash. He also got backlash, in fairness, because he suggested that the picture she's at is a sorority party, and the sorority party was like an old South party. So it's an antebellum party. And he says, I don't know, it doesn't look good. It was in 2018. He goes, but is the question, does it not look good today? Or did most people think that was okay in 2018? And Lindsay, the black woman he's talking to, is like, in fairness to her, she's like, where would I be at that party? Huh? That party's not cool now, not cool ever. I agree. But his point wasn't it was cool then. His point was, did most people think it was okay? It's the same as like the blackface thing when Megyn Kelly got, canceled for not saying blackface was a good thing, saying, I wonder if people wearing blackface, 20 years ago didn't realize it was bad. And people were going, well, they should have. Okay, they should have, but they didn't. And lots of well-known celebrities did it. Joy Behar did it. Jimmy Fallon did it. The governor of Virginia did it and literally stood next to a Ku Klux Klan guy, and he's still in office. So clearly, people thought things were okay that weren't okay. And Chris Harrison was merely saying, I'm not saying it was okay. I'm saying that maybe people think it was. For that, he got blasted. He stuck to his guns for about a half a second. And then finally, he caved in. Yeah, you know what? I want to agree with you, Tyler. I promise to stop saying I'm not trying to defend Trump, and I'm not. Yes, Trump canceled all kinds of people. Trump was a horrible example. Trump's a horrible example. Trump is cancel culture. 100% agree with you, Tyler. Trump represents cancel culture like crazy. You don't agree with him, you're canceled. You're fired. I mean, his whole apprentice, you're fired. He fired anyone who disagreed with him, and then he smeared them afterward. He's an absolute canceler. I don't like people being canceled, period, on either side. And my point is, we are getting crazy with the canceling. And what do people do is the apologies. So Chris Harrison finally comes out and apologizes. And he says this. And this is where it's just like, give me a break. Pop his tweet up. Take down Tyler's. Yeah, thanks. I took a stance on topics about which I should have been better informed. While I do not speak for Rachel Kirkconnell, my intentions were simply to ask for grace, to offering her an opportunity to speak on her own behalf. That seems reasonable, right? What I now realize I've done is cause harm by wrongly speaking in a manner that perpetuates racism. Come on. Are you serious? Are we serious about this? You said thanks, Crafty. You said give her a chance to speak on her own terms, and then let's judge. Let's see. And what you did was perpetuate racism? I mean, literally, we're going nuts. We're going crazy with this stuff, you guys. It's like, and again, this isn't political. Chris Harrison, I said, it's going to come around and get both sides. Chris Harrison's not a conservative. He wasn't defending her because he's conservative. Gina Carano is. Pedro Pascal is not. And they happen to be good friends, but can't be that anymore. But he's canceled. Now he has to say it was racist. What is racist about saying give her a chance to say her piece? And what's racist about asking a question? What's racist about asking a question? What's racist about asking a question about whether, not that it's okay, but did people think it was okay back then? It literally, but it gets crazier because Bruce Springsteen,
Rob,
just
real
got
quick.
canceled too. Yeah, Crafty.
Rob, I was going to say, so basically, because he didn't pass immediate judgment, he immediately got hated on by the left, even though he's also left.
Yeah, well, that's my point. Exactly. Yeah.
But that makes no sense. I thought we were supposed to be taught not to judge.
I agree with you, Crafty. Crafty's going to get all worked up in this episode. He's gonna fly back in. He's not be able to contain himself. But no, listen. My point, guys, is really simple. It's what Chris Harrison said was not racist. Was he uninformed? Not even that. I mean, he didn't say it was okay to be at an Old South party. He said, did people think it was? I mean, Lady Antebellum was a country music act until 6 months ago when they became Lady A. Their band's name was Lady Antebellum, and they're leftists. They're liberals. They're not conservative. But they realized it was wrong and changed it. Okay, fair enough. His question was merely, did people think it was okay to go to an Old South party a couple years ago? He said, I don't think it probably is. But did they think it was? And for that, he's being a racist? Ask the question? Okay, Bruce Springsteen. So Bruce Springsteen did a Jeep commercial. And I'm going to play part of it for you guys if you didn't see it. It was in the Super Bowl. Because what Bruce Springsteen did is he made a commercial and wrote a lyric that is all about finding the middle. And he sets it up by saying that there's a church. There's a church that sits at a point in the U.S. and it's sort of like the dead set middle. It's the chapel and it's right at the middle of the country and everyone's welcome there. And he kind of talks about freedom and how our hate is killing us, how hate and fear is destroying us. Now, let's be really clear. Bruce Springsteen is a liberal. Bruce Springsteen's been an outspoken advocate on the left for decades. And a harsh Trump critic. I think he got mad that Trump played his music, and again, has been unapologetically fighting both for the left, for the little guy, for freedom, for all kinds of things we all believe in. And here's what he said in his video, in his Super Bowl commercial. Let's play. We just play 40 seconds of it. Like I said, he starts it out, like I said, about the chapel that's right at the middle of America. And then he says this.
Now, fear has never been the best of who we are. And as for freedom, it's not the property of just the fortunate few. It belongs to us all. Whoever you are, wherever you're from, it's what connects us. And we need that connection. We need the middle. We just have to remember the very soil we stand on is common ground. So we can get there. We can make it to the mountaintop, through the desert, and we will cross this divide. Our light has always found its way through the darkness. And there's hope on the road up ahead.
I mean, what a great message. What a great message. We need that message now so badly. Why did they yank the ad? Bruce Springsteen supposedly, I think it's now been confirmed, got a DUI last year. And they yanked the ad before they even knew it. Part of what was sort of pathetic was Jeep said, we actually don't know the circumstances. We've only read about it, but we're taking the ad down just in case. We cancel you before we're even sure it happened. But even if it did, which I think they're finding out it did, it appears he did. He got DUI'd, and he was very cooperative, according to the cops. He wasn't difficult. He got DUI'd. Okay, so now you can't, your commercial, your Jeep commercial has to come down? Your Jeep commercial that called for unity, that said, let's find the common ground, let's not live in fear, let's, all of us, we need this, and I'm not like a conservative calling for it, I'm a hardcore fighter for the little guy and a liberal, and I'm calling for unity. No, we're going to pull that ad down because you've got DUI. My point is canceling is going to hit everything, guys. It's not, I'm laughing because it's become absurd. It will hit everything. So, and it keeps going. Justin Timberlake, the Britney Spears, Framing Britney Spears documentary comes out, and, kind of paints Britney in a pretty, like, she got, like, one of the world's biggest stars, but looks at kind of like how she kind of got treated and handled. And it, make you feel for her a lot, right? And I don't know Britney Spears. I met her once. I was in line literally at a Coffee Bean when I was doing one of my shows. That's like my Britney Spears experience. But, she was one of the biggest stars, and there's been all kinds of issues about her life and her father's conservativeship and all this stuff. I don't care how you feel about Britney one way or the other. Justin Timberlake was in a relationship with her. Justin Timberlake, at the time, said that they broke up, and he went public and said he was heartbroken and she cheated on him. And most people think Cry Me a River was about that. And, it's got the blonde adulteress in it, right? And so I don't know, did Britney Spears cheat on him? Maybe. I mean, I guess that's what he felt at the time, right? And he was heartbroken and he went public about it. So he goes public about it. And what happens is that he gets, this is 15 years ago. And Diane Sawyer interviews Britney Spears on television, and it calls it a no holds barred interview, and says to Britney, Justin Timberlake was heartbroken. He went public about it. What did you do that broke his heart so badly? Okay. No holds barred interview. Diane Sawyer is being asked to apologize for being cruel to Britney Spears for shaming her, for slut shaming her. How is it slut shaming to ask somebody when you're doing an interview and you say, I'm going to be straight up with you, what did you do to hurt this guy? He went public and said you hurt him. You could say, I didn't do anything. He's full of crap. But she simply said, he went public about it. What did you do? That's slut shaming you? Now that's slut shaming you. It's slut shaming you. And it seems like she did have an affair on him. But either way, whether she did or didn't, he was heartbroken, said I was heartbroken, wrote a song about it. So he was pissed. And Diane Sawyer asked about it. And now they have to both apologize. And Justin Timberlake did apologize. That's what's so crazy. He apologized. And to Janet Jackson and said, I'm deeply sorry. And what he really apologized, and he cares about them. And I'm not picking on Justin Timberlake for apologizing. It's like what you have to do now. And I think he means it. But what he says is, I realize now that, basically the entertainment industry is, I've been supporting white, systemic racism, and this industry is built for men and white men, and I've been part of it and benefited. Okay, he did. That part's true. Hollywood's always been geared toward men and white men, and that's a positive change that we're making. But he's now apologizing to Britney, and Diane Sawyer's got to apologize now. And now Sarah Silverman came out yesterday and apologized. Sarah Silverman apologized to Britney. I thought it was a joke. Sarah Silverman apologized to Britney for doing a show after that performance where Britney looked all messed up, and she looked all kooky, and everyone made fun of her for it. Well, Sarah Silverman was the comic that roasted her afterward, and she apologized and said, I didn't know that you'd had such a bad performance because I was busy doing my lines and all that, and I'm sorry I hurt you because you didn't know I was going to roast you. So now comics have to apologize for roasting celebrities because you hurt them. Like, I'm sorry. That's what happens. You're famous. They roast you. They make fun of you, and people laugh. Now you can't do that. And if you do, you have to apologize. And I get it. Look, fine. Let's not roast people. Let's not make fun of people. Let's just But that's what comics are supposed to do. So should Jimmy Fallon and every other late night show host, should they all, basically, Jimmy Kimmel, should they all apologize because they hurt people's feelings? Because Sarah Silverman said celebrities have feelings too. Of course they do. Of course they have feelings. But you're in the public eye. Should we apologize if we hurt Joe Biden's feelings? I mean, it's just gotten a little crazy, you guys. I mean, don't you see it? I'm revved up here because it's not about politics. This is about literally what are we doing? What standard are we asking for? What do we want people to do? Don't make fun of people. Okay, look, I'm not a guy who likes to make fun of people. I'm pretty sensitive. I'm pretty emotionally sensitive. I don't like to pick on people. But I get comics doing it. I get people roasting people. I get celebrities being roasted. I get people in the public eye being criticized. But we're literally we're shutting you down for everything. And it's going to come all the way around. I go back to Gina Carano and Pedro Pascal. They both made comparisons to the Holocaust that are both not valid comparisons. If one isn't valid, the other isn't. Like I said, if you're committing genocide, it's a valid comparison. Otherwise, it's not. And it's not valid to compare a leader to Hitler unless they're doing what Hitler did. But it's totally allowed. And now we're saying it's not. We're saying we're going to cancel you. Okay, so another person that now is going to get canceled, but it's interesting because he might not get canceled the same way, is TJ Duclos, who is the President Biden's deputy press secretary. TJ Duclos, it came out last week in a really nice story in People that he's dating a reporter who covered the presidential campaign. And they were dating, they fell in love, and they told their bosses, she worked for Axios, and they switched her beat to Kamala Harris, to the vice president, and everyone was cool. And they were like, we're so in love, and the whole thing. Great. Now, I could argue, I don't know if she should really be covering anything having to do with the White House. Like, it's a little, your serious relationship that you're going to marry is the deputy, press secretary to the president. So you're covering the vice president. But whatever. I don't care. I'm okay with that. It's fine. But he got Vanity Fair wrote a story about a Politico reporter who was going to write another story about him and the relationship. And he threatened her. He threatened to destroy. We have a little thing that shows. I think we just have one little graphic here. Yeah. Deputy press secretary suspended for a week for threatening to destroy a reporter writing about his personal life. Thanks, Crafty. And he also accused her of, they said it was misogynistic. It wasn't just threatening her. He accused her of being jealous that she was in a relationship with him. Apparently he said other misogynistic things. So he was misogynistic and he was hateful and he threatened to destroy her for going to write a story about his relationship because it wasn't apparently Politico wasn't going to do quite as nice a story. Maybe they were going to question whether she should keep covering anything having to do with the administration. So now get it interesting. They suspend him for a week. But I remember President Biden saying about 2 weeks ago, whenever it was, when he did the inauguration speech, not for him, for the 1,000 administration staffers, he said, if any single one of you disrespects someone you're working with, if anyone disrespects them or, is hostile toward them in any way, shape or form, or puts them down, I will fire you on the spot. And remember all the news coverage, it was like a big deal. He's going to be anti-Trump. So I hate to say it, but Joe Biden, you got to fire TJ Duclos on the spot. You don't suspend him for a week, you fire him on the spot because he was clearly more than derogatory. I mean, Vanity Fair, again, a liberal magazine, misogynistic, he threatened to destroy her. That's pretty tough. Accused her of being jealous and making it personal. So he's got to be fired, 100% fired on the spot. Do I think that's what should happen? No, but that's my point. If we're going to do it, then we got to do it. If you're going to say I'll fire anybody immediately for doing it, this is politics. They're disrespectful all the time, but you got to fire them then. If you're going to fire Gina Carano, you got to fire Pedro Pascal because his is just as anti-Semitic. I don't think either one is, but people in detention centers were not the same as people in the Holocaust in concentration camps, like night and day. And trust me, anybody who was put in a concentration camp would be like, I'll take that detention center on the border, like instantly, along with all my friends and family. Thank you. We're just going nuts. So Morgan Wallen, remember Morgan Wallen, the country singer? So he actually did something pretty cool. Because remember I talked about him last week. He's the guy who said the N-word to his friend. not trying to put somebody down with it, but using it to a friend who presumably was white as a friendly phrase. And I've talked to some people I know. I've talked, to some, I was in a car not a few days ago with a black friend of mine, and he was talking on the phone to someone. And he called him the N-word. It's a black friend of his a couple times, and it in a friendly way. And I asked him about it after, and he's like, my view is if I say it to white people. I've said it to our friends. I've said it to black people. If I'm going to say it, I should be okay with you saying it in that way, not in an offensive way. I thought that was an interesting perspective. I've heard a lot of black people say that because I've seen a lot of white and black people in the music community use it friendly amongst each other. That said, Wallen did said it, and he wasn't okay. And he clearly is. He's not in the rap world, and he's in the country music world, which has its own issues with racism, I guess. So he didn't say anything for a while, and then he came out and apologized. And his apology was interesting. This is either like the most brilliant PR move ever, or he really hit a chord. Listen, I just play a little piece, just a teeny piece of what he said in his Instagram apology.
So this week I've been waiting to say anything further until I got the chance to apologize to those closest to me that I knew I personally hurt. I also accepted some invitations from some amazing black organizations, some executives and leaders to engage in some very real and honest conversations. I'll admit to you, I was pretty nervous to accept those invitations. The very people I hurt, and they had every right to step on my neck while I was down, to not show me any grace, but they did the exact opposite. They offered me grace, and they also paired that with an offer to learn and to grow. And I'll be honest, that kindness really inspired me to dig deeper. And lastly, on how to do one favor to ask. I appreciate those who still see something in me and have defended me. But for today, please don't. I was wrong. It's on me.
I think that's awesome. And two things stand out to me about that. One, he took his time to think about it. He said, I don't know if that's the part we played, but he took his time. He wanted to think about what he'd done, and he wanted to make right with the people around him. He felt like he disappointed his parents, who said, nothing like that, would never be okay with that, and his son. It's really, to me, was really great. But listen to what he said, you guys. He said the NAACP was one of them. A number of groups reached out to him from the black community and said, let's have a dialogue. Let's have a dialogue about why you saying that. Even in the way you said it, which you thought was harmless, isn't harmless. Which A, is what I'm saying should happen. That's awesome. But B, what did he say? Morgan Wallen said, they could have stomped me on my neck. They had me down. They could have. I get it. Because that's what we do. We stomp on everyone when they're down. And he's like, I'd understand that. But they showed me grace. And in showing me grace, it made me want to understand what I did wrong. It made me want to look inward and ask, maybe I'm wrong here. That's the whole point. Oh, reason I hate the canceling, other than the fact that it's going to silence everyone. Everyone's going to be terrified, not know what they can or can't do or say. And we're not going to be able to keep up with it. And we're going to be so hypocritical. We're going to cancel one side, not the other side. Not politically, I mean. We're going to cancel Gina Carano and not Pedro Pascal, but it is political. But I mean, or we'll cancel them both, which either one is bad. We'll keep dividing. We'll keep people locking in on why they think they're right. Or we'll have dialogue. We won't cancel you right away. We'll have dialogue. And those black organizations that reached out to Wallen, to reached out and asked him to have a conversation, to have a dialogue. Well, that made Morgan Wallen go, I want to have a dialogue. I want to think about what I did wrong and take ownership of it. That's how we get there. That's the Bruce Springsteen. We got to all find the middle. Our fear is killing us. We got to walk together. And if we do, we'll find our way through the divisions. We'll find our way down the road. But no, we're just going to keep on canceling you. Morgan Wallen got canceled, and he admitted and took responsibility, and I'm proud of that. I put that part in at the end because I love it. He was like, do me a favor, guys, just today. I appreciate you who have my back, but don't defend me today. Don't defend me today. I was wrong. It's on me. I mean, that's just awesome. To me, that's just awesome. He's like, don't defend me today. I was wrong. And that's powerful too. And I said last week, I don't care. I'm not defending you. You said it, dude. It's on you. It is. And he says, I'll take whatever punishments come with it. I did it. But I want to learn. That was an honest apology, or like the most brilliant PR move ever. It wasn't just, I'm sorry. It wasn't Chris Harrison. I realized now I was perpetuating racism by saying, give her a chance to think about it and come out with her own response before we judge her. That's Morgan Wallen going, I don't know. I really need to think about what I did. And these groups gave me a chance to talk about it, and I want to take them up on it, and I want to understand and grow. That was an honest apology. That's what we need. That's the kind of dialogue we need. And so I got just a couple more, and then I'm getting to where I'm going with this, which always is a twist. I save a twist for you guys. Project Veritas. Now, this is for Monkey Arms and Tyler and my friends on the left. This is one that's going to push your buttons. But I can't help it because it's funny, you guys. This is just funny. Project Veritas goes after everything. And you know, look, half the time, their stuff is kooky. Sometimes they completely misedit videos and misconstrue things. And sometimes they really do get things. I mean, they get the CNN stuff. And to be honest, I listen to the stuff they get from CNN or, you know, meetings of like, you know, Facebook. And I'm always like, well, actually, what they said actually wasn't that terrible. But either way, some people say it's false journalism. Some of it is. Either way, they're always undercover with stuff. And they went after one of these guy from Facebook. He's one of the content guys, vice president of, I don't know, fact checking or whatever it is. And this is a very short clip that they posted to their site. Watch.
The VP of Integrity at Facebook. When you talk about freezing comments containing hate speech, what do you mean by that?
We have a system that is able to freeze commenting on threads in cases where our systems are detecting that there may be a thread that has hate speech or violence sort of in the comments.
How do you define hate speech? Is it just speech that you hate? Are you freezing your own comments now?
I'm sorry. Even if you can't stand them, you guys, you got to admit it's funny. How do you define hate speech? Just speech that you hate? I didn't say anything. Are you freezing your own comments now? I mean, it's funny. It's just funny. And it's, you know, it's almost like humorous political journalism. And, you know, and it's fair questions, but they yanked the Project Veritas account off Twitter. Just done. It's done. Suspended permanently. And why? Because they said it violated, not for what he asked, because it violated their content policy of not showing private information because it went by the guy's house. Here's the problem. It doesn't actually show where he lives. You do see you see the numbers of his street, of the street address, but you don't see what street it is or what neighborhood it is. So actually news organizations do it all the time. I mean, being in front of somebody's house, he didn't actually show where the guy lived. He didn't show his street and direct people to it. So to me, it's like a false pretense. They wanted to cancel him. They did. Again, that's canceling on the right. You might hate Project Veritas, but I want people on. I want Michael Moore did that kind of stuff. I don't want Michael Moore canceled, even though sometimes he goes a little far from me. I love Michael Moore. It goes like all in. I love watching Michael Moore. I don't want him canceled. It's like, no, please. But are we going to go cancel him too? Okay. So last one, because I said it comes all the way around. Robert Kennedy II. You know who Robert Kennedy is? Bobby Kennedy's son, not oldest son, but one of his sons. Robert Kennedy, number 2. Robert Kennedy's a well-known liberal activist, an environmentalist. You know, he's done a lot for the environment. He's been a lifelong Democrat. You know, the Kennedy family, granted, they're not progressives by any means. Well, some of the younger Kennedys are. But I mean, you know, certainly 100% liberals. And RFK, Robert F. Kennedy II, got canceled, got his account yanked off Instagram, 800,000 people, for false coronavirus claims. And basically, he's getting yanked because they're saying he's an anti-vaxxer. And anti-vaccine claims aren't okay. And Facebook has decided we are not going to let people say things about the vaccine or about COVID that we have deemed not okay to say. Now, this is why it gets really interesting to me. This is because I said it, we're going to take a twist, and we're about to take that twist, guys. We're about to curve around and go down a different road. Robert Kennedy is not actually an anti-vaxxer. I know. Yes, he is. He's actually not. His kids are all vaccinated. And he said, I'm not against vaccines. I'm against unsafe vaccines, and I'm against not knowing enough about a vaccine to make it safe. Those are legitimate questions to ask. People have a right to question whether the COVID vaccine is safe. They rushed it through. There've been very minimal testing to get it through, and that's okay. I understand why they did that. 100% understand. They want to save lives. Absolutely good for them. But people have a right to know and ask. And not everybody will take the vaccine. Some people will make a decision. It's not worth it. I don't want to take those risks. I don't need to. I'd rather get COVID. And that's a right you have. Robert Kennedy has a right to question how safe that vaccine is. He's not, and you would have a right to be an anti-vaxxer, but he's not. He's been connected with the whole view that certain vaccines are connected to autism, which again, everyone says has been widely shut down and disproven in the scientific community. I hate when people say that. It has been. It's also, there are many in the scientific community who still say there is a connection. There's many people who say, I don't know. All I know is my kids got vaccinated and that's what happened. And you have, is that just anecdotal evidence? Well, it's a lot of people with that evidence. Point is, yes, a big portion of the scientific community has shut down the claims that vaccines lead to autism. And there's tons of people on both sides of the political spectrum, rich and poor. I know people who are very wealthy, very liberal, who think vaccines lead to autism and don't want to vaccinate their kids or don't want to give them all the vaccines. It's a fair debate to have. When we say, and this is where I'm going, this is how we're making the turn, because the danger in what's happening, Facebook has become, we saw one last graphic. We have a little graphic of what Facebook is doing. Facebook has become more aggressive than ever to stamp out vaccine misinformation, saying it would remove posts with erroneous claims about COVID. Now, you probably had heard that before. Facebook is deciding that it is going to be the arbiter of what scientific information can be allowed. Why is that a problem? You go, look, let's be honest. We all know what the science says. We've had this debate. The science says this. And I've argued the science can say a lot of different things. People can cherry pick which side of the science they want. No, the science says this. Okay, so here's what that means. And here's why that's a problem. If Facebook had been around for the last few centuries, here's the things that wouldn't have happened. I'm going to give you know the obvious ones. The earth is flat. Scientists thought the earth was flat for a long time before, and they were serious pushback to the notion that it was round. Okay, that the earth didn't orbit the sun orbited the earth. That was a big one. Galileo was put under house arrest for that one. What's his name? Bruno was burned at the stake. And people always go, well, that was the crazy Catholic Church. No, it wasn't just the Catholic Church. It was the scientific community. The scientific community of the time believed that that everything went around the earth, and they were dug in on it. They were not backing down on that one. That was a view of the mainstream science. But those are the ones we know. Natural selection, obviously, the whole idea of natural selection was a big one. And was Darwin didn't even want to publish his stuff because he was afraid of the pushback he'd get. But here's ones you might not know. Okay. Louis Pasteur, pasteurization, that whole idea. The germs spread disease. They didn't used to think germs spread disease. He said they did. Now, again, and you're saying that's a great discovery. My point of each of these discoveries is there was serious scientific pushback. The scientific community of the time did not accept that to be true. George Bernard Shaw said, all great truths begin in blasphemy. And Schopenhauer, the Viennese German philosopher, said all great truths are first ridiculed, second violently opposed, and third accepted as self-evident. So here's a couple you might not know. Antiseptic hand washing. The whole reason we don't get, we wash our hands for COVID. Antiseptic hand washing was a concept that a guy, Ignaz Semmelweis. That's it, Semmelweis. Ignaz Semmelweis. I can't say his name. Came up with, realized that doctors were not washing their hands and they were spreading disease and killing thousands of people. And when he discovered it, he's like, oh my God, I'm going to save thousands of lives because, this is how we're killing people, especially because in hospitals, there was no sanitation. And he realized, no, antiseptic hand washing is key. The scientific community was hard on him, like tough hard on him. They literally locked him up in an insane asylum and beat him. And 2 weeks later, he died. Do you know how many thousands of lives would have been saved had they accepted it sooner? And to this day, I mean, if we didn't accept that, if Facebook had said that's not allowed to be heard, we'd all still be not washing our hands and killing each other. But there's more. Mad cow disease. Mad cow disease. The guy who in 1986, Stanley Prusiner argued that mad cow disease was caused by a protein, and the scientific community said, no way. They're like, it's either a virus or a bacteria. It can't be a protein. And he said he got vicious personal attacks in the media. That he said it was heretical to the infectious disease community to suggest that it wasn't a virus or a bacteria. Heretical to them. Mainstream science, 1986, everyone was like, no, and the media made fun of him. 10 years later, Stanley Prusiner won the Nobel Prize because he was right. But science said he was wrong. Mainstream science, not crazy Galileo, Catholic Church Inquisition science. Modern science said it. And finally, the last one I have on this, there's so many of them, you guys. There's so many examples, is Bennett Omalu, Dr. Bennett Omalu. Dr. Bennett Omalu was the first doctor to realize that traumatic brain injuries, how they were caused, CTE. And he got pushback. He got serious pushback from the NFL and from the scientific community. And here's what he said about it. He responded to it because he got so much pushback and got beaten up so much. Crafty, can you pop up the thing? I was naive, Dr. Omalu told GQ in 2009. There are times I wish I'd never looked at Mike Webster's brain. It's dragged me into worldly affairs I don't want to be associated with. Human meanness, wickedness, and selfishness. People trying to cover up to control how information is released. I started this not knowing I was walking into a minefield. That is my only regret. That's the guy who realized what we're doing to our brains. That's the reason we have concussion protocols in NFL games. That's the reason so many parents aren't letting their kids play football. He discovered it and he got pushback. Every one of these thinkers, these scientists, these people received enormous pushback from the scientific community of their time. Heredity was believed to be, you got two genes, your parents, the average of your genes was what you would be. And the guy who figured out that wasn't the case literally made decades and decades of scientific thought. Every great scientific breakthrough breaks the old ones. So if we're going to let Facebook decide, if we're going to let Facebook and Twitter decide what science is okay, what science you're allowed to believe, what science you're allowed to say, we're going to shut progress off because you can say, no, we know. We don't know. We could find out the COVID vaccine is not safe. Could. I don't say we will. We could find it out. We could find out all kinds of things about COVID we don't know. But if we're going to say you're not allowed to say them because the scientific community says so, and we know the scientific community is right, well, that's what the scientific community has done for decades and decades and decades until somebody, as George Bernard Shaw said, all great truths begin as blasphemous. Until somebody proves it, and then as Schopenhauer said, after they violently ridicule it, they accept it as self-evident. We'd stop progress of thought if we that's the whole reason we got to have freedom of thought. That's the whole reason we got to have freedom of expression. It's not really about Britney Spears and apologizing. It's about allowing people to think freely and express freely. We can joke and laugh about canceling people left, right, and center. And at the end of the day, celebrities being canceled, it doesn't really kill me. It worries me that we're going to start canceling each other. We're going to start canceling our thoughts, and we're going to stop having a dialogue. As one of my listeners, Crucian, said, the problem is we all are cherry picking what we want. And he's on the left. We're all, both sides, we're cherry picking the thing we want. The thing we want to accept. We're not going to find that middle road, that common ground, that middle, as Bruce Springsteen talked about, if we keep canceling everyone instead of actually reaching out and saying, we're not canceling you. We're opening up a dialogue with you. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it more. You said something we think is wrong. You did something wrong. Let's not shut your site down. Let's push more information onto it and force a debate around it. Don't take RFK's Instagram down. Put more info up next to it. Wouldn't that be the way? Yes, I believe in freedom of thought. 100%. I think Crafty put that up. I think that's me asking you, do you believe in freedom of thought? But we all say we believe in freedom of thought, just how we express it. And my point is, they go hand in hand. One, you have to be free to think, but you also have to be free to express those thoughts. If you're not free to express them, one, you're not going to change whatever your thoughts are. You're not going to explore. You're not going to expand. You're not going to make mistakes that could lead you to make better decisions. You're not going to do a Morgan Wallen and actually make a better decision. And you could argue, but Morgan Wallen got canceled. That led to him making this change. It didn't. The canceling didn't lead to him making the change. He was very clear. What led to him making the change was the groups who he said could have tried to, stomp him down when he was down and stay on top of him, said, come talk to us. Let's have a dialogue about this. And he said, that's what made me want to look inside and ask. We're all in this together, you guys, every single one of us. I love all you guys, all my listeners. I love the ones who push the hardest on the other side. I absolutely value your comments because it makes me think. But if we're not having that dialogue, if you're canceling me or I'm canceling you, we go nowhere. I agree with you, Monkey Arms. And I 100% agree with you. And by the way, just because peer-reviewed science and all that, and my point on that is even peer-reviewed science has been proven wrong. The mad cow disease is a great example. You may not remember the whole mad cow thing, but the whole point was peer-reviewed science, mainstream scientific thought, the entire infectious disease community worldwide believed that it could only be caused by bacteria or viruses. That it wasn't possible for a protein to be an infectious protein. And Stanley Prusiner proved that it was. Took him 10 years and he won a Nobel Peace Prize. So even peer-reviewed scientific journals, even whatever mainstream science has concluded collectively can and will in many places be changed. Our knowledge, our discoveries will keep changing and evolving, but not if we stop people from freely thinking and expressing views that go against the grain. I'm Rob Nelson. Thanks for watching.